10,000 men dead, not one of them killed by the enemy. The Ottoman scouts arrived at dawn. They found cannons abandoned in the mud, supply wagons overturned, bodies scattered across 2 miles of open field. The Austrian camp was destroyed, completely, methodically, brutally. But there were no Turks here the night before. The Habsburg army, one of the most disciplined fighting forces in 18th century Europe, had found its enemy in the dark, and that enemy was itself. This is not folklore. This is the official military record of the Battle of Karansebes, and it started with a barrel of schnapps. The year is 1788. Emperor Joseph II has declared war on the Ottoman Empire. On paper, it looks like a mismatch. The Habsburg army fields 100,000 soldiers. It has artillery, cavalry, and some of the finest military engineers in Europe. The Ottomans are stretched thin, fighting Russia on a second front simultaneously. Vienna expects a quick campaign, a surgical strike south into the Balkans, a victorious emperor home by winter. Joseph II needs this war. His reign has been turbulent, costly reforms, rebellious provinces, a restless nobility. A decisive military victory would silence every critic. It would cement his legacy. But there is a problem no general wants to admit out loud. The army is a polyglot disaster. Habsburg forces in 1788 are not a single nation marching under one flag. They are Germans, Hungarians, Romanians, Czechs, Croats, Serbs, and Italians, each unit speaking its own language, following its own traditions, trusting its own officers and nobody else. Communication between regiments is slow. Orders get misread. Tensions between ethnic units run just beneath the surface, held together by discipline and little else. Remove the discipline for one night, add alcohol, then add darkness, paranoia, and a single misheard word. What follows is not a battle. It is a case study in how armies destroy themselves, and how the most dangerous enemy a fighting force can face is the one it carries inside. The date is the night of September the 17th. The town of Karansebes, a river crossing in the southern Carpathians. The Ottoman advance force is still 2 days away. No one knows that yet. The hussars cross the river first. Their job is simple: scout the opposite bank, confirm no Ottoman forces are nearby, report back. Standard procedure. The kind of mission every cavalryman has done 100 times. They find no Turks. They find something better. A group of local Roma merchants has set up camp on the far bank. They have food, they have goods, and they have several barrels of schnapps. The hussars, weeks into a grinding and inglorious campaign with nothing to show for it, make a decision that will echo through military history. They buy the schnapps. They start drinking. Word travels fast in a bored army. The infantry units waiting on the near bank hear about the party across the river. Soldiers begin crossing on their own initiative, drifting toward the light and the noise. Soon there is a crowd. Men who have been marching through mud and mosquitoes for weeks are suddenly standing around barrels of spirits in the dark, laughing, arguing, drinking deep. The hussars do not want to share. This is where the night begins to fracture. The cavalry and infantry start arguing over the schnapps, first with words, then with shoves. The hussars, drunk and territorial, draw a line. The infantrymen, equally drunk and resentful, push back. A scuffle breaks out. Someone throws a punch. Someone draws a weapon. A single shot fires into the night. No one will ever know who pulled the trigger. It does not matter. What matters is what happens in the next 30 seconds. A voice screams in Romanian, "The Turks are here." That sentence, 4 words in Romanian, detonates like a grenade inside a crowd of drunk, exhausted, multilingual soldiers standing in total darkness. The infantrymen who speak Romanian hear it clearly and run. The German-speaking soldiers next to them see men suddenly sprinting in panic and draw the only logical conclusion available to a frightened human brain at midnight. The enemy is attacking. They run too. They scream warnings in German. The Hungarian units hear screaming in a language they do not understand and see shadows moving fast. They load their muskets. The cavalry mounts. Horses feel the panic before their riders do. They always do, and begin moving, fast, without clear direction, through the crowd of infantry below them. Men get knocked down, more screaming, more shots. Within minutes, 100,000 soldiers are caught inside a cascading hallucination. Officers try to restore order. Some ride forward on horseback, shouting commands, trying to be heard above the chaos. Their exact words are lost to history. What survives is what the panicking soldiers heard, not commands, but the sounds of mounted men charging toward them in the dark. Cavalry. Charging. That means Ottomans. The muskets open up. The artillery crews, positioned on the near bank, hear the shooting, hear the screaming, see dark shapes moving at speed across the river toward them. They do what they are trained to do. They fire. Into their own men. Emperor Joseph II is asleep in his command tent when the noise wakes him. He steps outside. The army is destroying itself in every direction he looks. He tries to mount his horse. In the chaos, he is shoved into a stream. He nearly drowns. The commander of one of Europe's great military powers spends the opening act of his great victorious campaign soaking wet, trying to understand why his soldiers are killing each other over schnapps and shadows. He never fully recovers from that night. Neither does his army. By 3 in the morning, the shooting stops. Not because order is restored, because there is almost no one left to shoot. The survivors have fled in every direction. Units are separated from their officers. Officers are separated from their men. The artillery is abandoned where it stands. The supply wagons are overturned, looted, or simply left in the road. The carefully planned Habsburg advance, months of logistics, thousands of miles of preparation, is shattered across a 2-mile stretch of riverbank. The official Austrian casualty count from the night of September the 17th, approximately 10,000 dead and wounded. The number is disputed by some historians who place it lower, but no one disputes the fundamental fact. The losses are catastrophic, and every single one of them came from friendly fire. 2 days later, the Ottoman army arrives at Karansebes. They find the cannons, they find the wagons, they find a battlefield that has already been fought and lost without them. The Turkish commander, by all accounts, is confused. His scouts report no signs of a major engagement with a foreign force. Only wreckage. Only bodies wearing Austrian uniforms killed by Austrian weapons. He advances without resistance. The town falls in hours. Here is what 10,000 men dying looks like from the outside. It looks like nothing. No heroic last stand. No impossible odds overcome by courage. No enemy commander who outthought or outmaneuvered anyone. Just a river. A barrel of schnapps. 4 words in the wrong language at the wrong moment. And an army so large, so fractured, so convinced of its own invincibility that it had no defense against the one thing no military planner had ever written a contingency for: itself. The hussars who started the fight, most of them survive. They are cavalry. They have horses. They ride out of the chaos before the artillery opens up. The infantrymen who crossed the river looking for a drink are not so lucky. They are caught between 2 panicking forces in total darkness, with no way to identify friend from enemy and no commanding voice loud enough to cut through the noise. The officers who ride toward the shooting to restore order are shot by their own men. The men who stand still and shout their unit names are trampled by their own cavalry. The men who run are cut down by soldiers who mistake movement for an Ottoman charge. There is no correct decision. Every instinct for survival accelerates the catastrophe. This is the moment military historians call a cascade failure. Each individual action is rational. A soldier hears gunfire and returns fire. A cavalry unit hears screaming and charges forward. An artillery crew sees movement and fires. Every single response makes sense in isolation. Together, they form a machine that grinds an army to pieces. Joseph II survives the night. He lives 2 more years. He dies in 1790, exhausted, defeated. His reforms reversed, his empire destabilized, his great campaign against the Ottomans remembered not for any victory, but for one night on a river in the Carpathians. He never speaks publicly about Karansebes. Some failures are too precise to explain away. The Ottoman Grand Vizier who captures Karansebes 2 days after the battle reportedly walks the field for a long time before speaking. What he says is not recorded. But his army advances 300 miles into Habsburg territory before the Austrians manage to regroup and push them back. 300 miles, paid for with schnapps and a single misheard word. Every military in history has studied Karansebes. Not because it is unique, because it is not. The same Cascade failure, panic, miscommunication, friendly fire, appears in the charge of the Light Brigade. In the early hours of D-Day, when American paratroopers shot each other in the dark over Normandy. In Vietnam, where entire units called in airstrikes on their own positions because the radio operator misread a coordinate. The technology changes. The weapons get faster, smarter, more precise. The uniforms change. The languages change. The panic does not change. Because the panic is not a malfunction. It is the system working exactly as designed. Human beings, under sufficient fear and sufficient darkness, revert to a single operating principle. Everything moving toward me is a threat. It kept our ancestors alive on the savannah for 200,000 years. It is catastrophically wrong the moment you hand those ancestors a musket and put them inside an army of 100,000 strangers who all look identical in the dark. Karansebes did not happen because the Habsburg army was incompetent. It happened because they were human. That is the part that should keep you up at night. Not that an army once destroyed itself over schnapps and a misheard word, but that the conditions required for it to happen again exist in every large organization, every crowd, every system where frightened people make fast decisions with incomplete information in the dark. The Ottomans did not defeat the Habsburgs that night. Fear did. And fear does not need an enemy.